when you were all in a class and you all had a book to read. So you'd all have a book to read and you'd all kind of stand up and read your line. And then you'd sit down, the next person would read your line or your chapter or something like that. And for me, it was, I used to fear that coming around.
Let's just talk a little bit about the dyslexia. How old was that when you were diagnosed?
So I was probably 11-ish, 10, 11.
And had that been causing you a lot of problems up until that time? Because I guess, I always say things like, dyslexia and ADD, they were proper illnesses 30 years ago. Now everyone gets diagnosed with it just because they've had some shit grades, don't they? But back then, I guess it was something that was less diagnosed and more serious.
Yeah, it was. And it was little things like reading, spelling. Even now when I'm trying to say kind of, what two am I writing? Or what there? Is it there IE or all that kind of stuff? And you're still kind of thinking about it. And I remember kind of now, even if I was presenting to the players in like a meeting as kind of captain or something like that, I would always get one of the young guys to come up and do the writing on the board for me and just be like, oh, that's there kind of thing. But one of the biggest things I used to struggle with is when you were all in a class and you all had a book to read. So you'd all have a book to read and you'd all kind of stand up and read your line. And then you'd sit down, the next person would read your line or your chapter or something like that. And for me, it was, I used to fear that coming around to me. And then I remember I went to a carol concert a couple of years ago, and I was reading in between Charles Dance, Olivia Colman, Dawn French, these kind of world-class actors and actresses, thinking, oh my God, I'm so out of my depth. But I loved it. And if I could say to myself as a kid there, look where you're going to be in 30 odd years time because of all the little steps that teachers have put into you and your parents and all that kind of stuff have made me stay in breaks times and have made me do extra work after class. Because as a kid, you don't see the benefit. You're like, oh, I hate that teacher. They're making me work again and all that kind of stuff. But those little things really added up for me. So if anyone with dyslexia always asks me, I'm saying, just stick with it. Stick with it, keep on doing those little increments because come 10, 15, 20 years time, your development will be so much greater than you ever thought.
And is it really treatable and fixable? Or is it like, I don't know, if you're colourblind, you're colourblind, I know you can, like you say, train on it and get better, but do you ever cure it?
Good question. I'm not sure, actually. I think also you learn to deal with things and you learn to adapt with things. And I think with stuff like dyslexia, I think it's really helped me think differently because certain ways of thinking don't apply to. And I always say, look, when you're in a group environment, when you're in a team environment, team managing, whatever you're going to be, captaincy, a lot of it is player management and it's understanding people and it's understanding how to get a message across to you. So I might get a message across to you in a certain way, but the next person won't understand the message how I've related it to you. So I have to think of something completely different to speak to them. And I think with stuff like dyslexia and other things, you get a little bit more creative with your approaches because you have to think a little bit more outside the box. And for me, I'm much more a hands-on learner. So we would do kind of team tactics or stuff and it'd all be written on like the TV screen or the whiteboard. And half of us have no idea what's been happened because half of us are physical learners. We want to be outside walking through it and stuff like that. And I think now in the schooling systems and they're helping children with stuff like that. They're thinking, you know what, we went to look at a school the other day. They have tables on the floor because some kids prefer to learn sat on the floor and stuff like that, which I mean, same as you, as a kid, your desk was all forward facing, it was all that. But also they know that the jobs now in the future are going to be like that. They're going to be working from home. They might be working from a kitchen sofa or, do you know what I mean? So they have to be able to kind of get their message across slightly differently and so they can understand.